We recently received news in the United States and across the globe that former President Jimmy Carter had opted to enter into hospice care. So there have been so many articles written and about his life. But there's one thing that really stands out to me about former President Jimmy Carter. And it's not the fact that he was president of the United States. It's how he lived his entire life. I believe that we can all learn from his great example. His entire life was a life of purpose. He was intentional. He knew his mission, vision, and values, and he was true to them, regardless of the job or office that he held. He never strayed from what he believed and who he was meant to be and how he was meant to show up in this world. And it didn't matter whether or not his presidency was viewed in a historical, view favorably or unfavorably. What seemed to really matter most to him was his entire life. And was he true to who he was created to be? Was he consistent in being purposeful? And I think that he truly was. Interestingly enough, I believe that that made the transition from this big fat job of being president. It's a title that only a few people will ever hold. And it made the transition a lot easier because he knew who he was. He never lost sight of that. And his life was more than the title of that job. Sometimes all that we can say about a person is the title that they held or the work that they did. But in the case of Jimmy Carter, there's so much more to say because his entire life was purposeful and he never ever strayed from that, as far as I know. So, what I saw publicly was a guy that was very committed to serving people, and he did that wholeheartedly. And it didn't take, being president to do that. He did that in his service at church, he did that in his service to Habitat to Humanity. He was somebody who really poured into people. I think that there's a lesson here for all of us. Here, particularly in the United States, we really do tend to identify ourselves by the job that we do, the work that we do, and the roles that we play. So often you'll notice that when people are introducing themselves, they'll introduce themselves and include what they do for a living. Or if they don't include that in their introduction, inevitably, within the first 5 minutes of meeting someone, you may ask them, "So what do you do?" And I understand that it's an effort to understand more about the person, but we are so much more than our job titles. We're so much more than our work. Work is one piece of our lives. I personally want to live a life that has impact and has meaning. And for me, I am someone that really wants to be committed to purpose in every area of my life. And I want to be intentional about how I spend my time and how I show up in the world, whether that's at work, or in my personal life. I don't think that there should be a separation. I think that surprisingly, this also offers us and validates something that I teach to corporations. It's why we really have to have that North Star as a brand, as a company, as an individual. It's really important to have that foundation that does not change. I mean, a foundation is what we build our house upon, right? And we want it not to move. When your foundation is crumbling or, shaky or something is off, it's shifting, it's going to affect the entire operation. And it's something that you want to tend to. So I believe that that's true for us as individuals and us as companies as well, that you have to have that strong foundation. And that starts with knowing who you're meant to be. Be really clear on your identity. Be really clear on who you are and what your purpose is here on this earth. And yes, companies have a purpose. You have a mission, you have a vision, you have values. When you have that as the foundation and you're true to that in every action that you take, it adds up to really having meaning. And I think that that satisfies one of the deepest needs of humanity. We all want to have purpose and meaning in our lives. And so we can ensure that we achieve that by being super intentional in how we go about our day to day actions. So I want to say thank you. I'm sure he'll never see this video, but still, I want to say thank you to those of you who are watching this, to President Jimmy Carter for leaving us a legacy that inspires us all to pay attention to our whole life and to understand that our legacy is so much more than the job that we have, no matter how great that job is, no matter how small that job is, no matter what that job title is, no matter what labels get attached to us, understanding that our life is a whole life and it's so much more than that one thing. I truly hope the best for he and his family, and I'm thinking of them in these final days as they navigate this difficult journey. But I'm so thankful for the life that he lived and the legacy he is sure to leave behind.